وسلم تسليما كثيرا. Are you all familiar in London with the concept of a BMI, body mass index? Do you all do that? You weigh muscle, body fat, a BMI? So you're well acquainted with the idea that two people can step on a scale and they might technically weigh the same, but their health is actually entirely different. The content of that person does not immediately show based upon what shows up on the scale, what number shows up on the scale. I want you to remember this concept, inshallah ta'ala. It'll make sense to you in about 20 minutes, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Masruq ibn al-Ajda' rahimahullah says that one day I was reading to my teacher, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. And the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, "Man arada an yasma' al-Qur'an غَدًّا طَرِيًّا كَمَا أُنزِلْ." Whoever wants to hear the Qur'an fresh, like the day that it was recited, let them listen to the recitation of Ibn Abd, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. And as he was reading to Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he came across the verse, "Inna Ibrahima kana ummah qanitan lillah." That verily Ibrahim alayhi salam was a nation. Ibrahim was an ummah, devout in his worship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a monotheist, and he did not associate partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he said that as I recited that verse to Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, Ibn Mas'ud responded, and he said, "Inna Mu'adhan kana ummah." Mu'adh ibn Jabal was an ummah. So Masruq tried again, and he thought that maybe it's a mistake, or he asked Ibn Mas'ud, "Why are you saying that inna Mu'adhan kana ummah?" And Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu ta'ala anhu responded, and he said, "Atadri mal ummah?" Do you know what an ummah is? He said, "What?" It's not a nation of people. It's not by number. It's not by tribe. It's not even by belief. What is an ummah? He said, "Alladhi yu'allimu an-nas al-khayr." The one who teaches the people good is an ummah. And he said, "Atadri mal qanit?" Do you know who a person that's devout in his worship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is? He said, "Who?" He said, "Alladhi yuti'u Allah wa rasulah." The one who obeys Allah and the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And he recited once again, "Inna Mu'adhan kana ummah." Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiyallahu ta'ala anhu was an ummah in and of himself. Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. How many of you are named Mu'adh? Just a show of hands. I know we have some Mu'adhs that are here, mashallah. Some of you are hesitant. I don't know what to make of that. How many Mu'adhs do we have here? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us all nations like Mu'adh radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiyallahu ta'ala anhu died when he was between the age of 34 and 36. And on the day of judgment, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that when the lines are set, that Mu'adh radiyallahu ta'ala anhu is the master of the ulama, the leader of the ulama on the day of judgment, despite that young age. Now, subhanallah, this ummah was sent to Yemen. And the fact that the Prophet ﷺ sent Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiyallahu ta'ala anhu to Yemen is a sign of the intention that the Prophet ﷺ had for Yemen. Look how beautiful, look how powerful, look how incredible the fruits of that da'wah are in Yemen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless the people of Yemen. Al-imanu Yamani. Faith is Yemeni. There are people who have soft hearts that inclined quickly to this message. And the Prophet ﷺ had the foresight to send an ummah from Medina to go to Yemen, and an ummah comes out from Yemen from which the fruits are still being born. Inna Mu'adhan kana ummah. The one to whom that was being recited was Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. Ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, if you saw him, his description is that he was physically short. Not only that, but he's someone whose presence had absolutely no imposition by virtue of the physical makeup of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu ta'ala anhu. But the famous story of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam with Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu ta'ala anhum is that when he went to pick a siwak for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the wind blew up his thawb, and you could see his legs, the Sahaba laughed at the size of his legs. And the Prophet ﷺ said, "What are you laughing at?" They said, "Ya Rasulullah, we're laughing at the size of his legs." And the Prophet ﷺ said, "Lahuma fil mizani athqalu min jabri Uhud." You're laughing at his legs. His legs in the mizan, his legs in the scale of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the Day of Judgment is the size of Uhud. Can you imagine a man walking with legs the size of the mountain of Uhud? Imagine if that person existed today. If any of you have ever seen Uhud, it's humongous. Imagine walking and your legs being the size of Uhud. Because it wasn't the physical mass of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu that defined him as a person. It was the character, the faith that was inside of him that defined his size in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.